G'day guys! With Season 1 just over the horizon, I wanted to break down everything that I'm going to have prepared for all of the upcoming content, as well as everything that I recommend people to have going forward. In this video, we're going to go over what you should be grinding for and stockpiling right now, as well as covering some early prep for Hailey and the new weapon Excava. Now this is my third attempt at writing a script for this. Every time I'm happy with it and I start recording, we get some crazy new news about release dates and update spacing. So I originally had a version where I assumed that everything was coming out on day 1, and that script involved prepping multiple energy activators and spare red mods to combine for Ultimate Freyna and Hailey's mods. But when the original update schedule released, I tossed that script because I assumed we were going to have to wait 2 months to get a good chunk of the seasonal content. Now, with the new and hopefully final version of the update schedule, I can finally get down to making this checklist. Before we jump into it, let's go over the seasonal content schedule and some of the things we can expect to grind for. I can only assume that with the schedule constantly changing, there's probably a bit of confusion for the community on when everything's coming out. So to start, on August 29th, we're getting the Invasion Dungeons, Hailey, Inversion Reinforcement, and the Battle Pass, which comes with the new ultimate weapon. Then in week 7, so October 10th, we're getting the new Void Intercept boss, Deathstalker, and with that comes a new external component set, and I'm also going to assume the new ultimate scout rifle, like how Peacemaker comes from Gluttony, but it may also appear in the new mutant amorphous materials that come with Ultimate Freyna. Speaking of, we also get Ultimate Freyna, her red mods, Hailey's Transcendant mods, and a new ultimate mod, like how we got RK Concretion with the Lunar and Ultimate Valby drop. So that's our current schedule. The big second content drop happens a few weeks down the line, as opposed to 3 separate content drops spaced out pretty equally. Let's start off by talking about Hailey. From the Gamescom trailer, we can see that her parts all drop from the new Invasion Dungeons. These are variants of our current dungeons that rotate daily, with unique modifiers, enemy types, and extra rewards based on clear speed. While we can't guarantee that Hailey will drop from other sources, I think it's pretty safe to assume that we'll get new amorphous materials with her parts, especially seeing as the Invasion Dungeons are currently time-gated to only 2 clears a day. We're going to keep an active tally of everything on the checklist, and the final results will be at the end of the video. In order to actually grind Hailey, I'm playing it safe in order to try and grab her quickly. I've got at least 500 of each Void Shard type, which guarantees at least 10 opens of every Void Reactor in the game. I have to recommend doing the same. Having a large stockpile of Void Shards lets you quickly adapt to meta shifts and balance changes because it gives you a decent amount of chances to grab whatever parts you need. Now, if you want a fast way of grinding Void Shards, while also making a ton of gold and getting good XP, check out our video on the best all-rounded farm in the game, which is on screen now and in the link in the description and pinned comment below. Now, once we actually have Hailey, what else do we need? The obvious ones are an energy activator and a few catalysts. Because we're not getting her red mods immediately, that means if we fully catalyze her now, we'll realistically have to change up some of the socket polarities come October 10th. Because I'm a content creator, I want to test out her absolute max power at the moment so I can give you guys the best information possible. But for most people, I'd recommend holding off on maxing her out unless she's super strong right out the gate. We'll hopefully have a full Hailey guide out a few days after she drops with all of our impressions and some stat breakdowns. So an energy activator and 4 to 5 catalysts for Hailey. What else? I recommend having at least 1 million Kuiper and around 5 million gold for modding her, because we don't know the exact modding setup for her just yet, so we may end up finding some use cases for mods that we've never used before and have to upgrade. Why these numbers exactly? Well, upgrading a purple mod from 0 to max takes around 2 million gold. So that's preparation for our focus mods, which are the damage and cooldown ones, but also if we spec into the blue damage variants, 5 million gold gives us more room to mess around with different mod types. Now, let's talk about Excava, the new ultimate assault rifle from the Battle Pass. It's safe to assume that obtaining it will be similar to Sigvor's proof from pre-season, with all 5 coming at different levels in the pass. This thing looks really strong. If you're a Destiny player, you might be reminded of something like Quicksilver Storm, and if you're a Warframe player, the closest thing is arguably the Incarnon weapons. After a certain amount of hits, you can charge the weapon to fire a single high-powered grenade shot. If this thing drops with good crit or weak point damage, it might be a top contender in most content. Again, while we don't have the stats for it right now, the functionality alone proves that this is probably worth investing in. So for that, we'll need to have an energy activator, a good chunk of catalysts, and the full range of good general rounds mods. Most people probably already have these mods sorted out, seeing as the meta has been dominated by Thunder Cage, Python, Tamer, Enduring Legacy, etc. But if you don't, I recommend having another 5 million gold or so to kit this thing out. We can assume that it'll pretty much use the same mods as our other general rounds weapons, with some variations for weak point or crit based on the stat lines. So my general theory craft for it will have rifling reinforcement, action and reaction, fire rate up, and then have aiming and weak point sight for the weak point damage, or concentration priority and better insight for crit. And then finally, I'll have mental focus, real life fighter, or sweeping squad as the special mod. Anyway, moving on. So now we've got the new weapon and the new Descendant covered. Let's keep going. Let's quickly talk about Invasion dungeons. We know that they're solo only, they'll have special modifiers that might make certain Descendants or weapons weaker or stronger, and we also know that the rewards are based on clear time. I don't think you can go wrong with a really strong bunny build, be that a high voltage ultimate bunny or a more general infinite uptime bunny build. I'm also personally not opposed to trying my SEMO mobbing build and my ultimate Gley mass sanguification mobbing builds either. Some top choices here are Bunny, Lepic, and Valby for their fast and easy mobbing and decent mission boss capabilities. If you've got at least one of these, you're more than likely in the clear for maximizing your rewards. Now this one's a little bit more niche, but I still think it's a super solid recommendation. We know that when Season 1 drops, we're getting new balance changes. Blair, Jaber, and Ajax are all getting a little more love, which is great. I also wouldn't be surprised if some weapons got well-deserved buffs, because a lot of them are pretty useless at the moment. For this scenario, having a good general bossing build for Void Intercepts is great preparation. If we do see some crazy buffs or reworks like how we saw with Greg's Reverse Fate this season, you're going to want to be able to grab the amorphous materials and grab these weapons quickly to take advantage of them. But again, if you don't have a great bossing build, I understand that it takes a long time to get these operational, so don't push too hard for it. Finally, sort out your inventory. Make your presets amazing and usable. They're an incredibly powerful tool. We've even got a full video going in depth on that I highly recommend you watch, which again will be in the description and pinned comment down below. Now let's talk about our final tally and some extra thoughts on the whole of Season 1 and the drip fed content. So we need at least 500 of every Void Shard. In Season 1, Void Fragments are actually getting buffed by almost 2 times, so just purely grinding these won't be too bad in the actual season. We also want around 10 million gold, 5 million if you've got the full General Rounds suite of mods. Around 2 million Kuiper for those mod upgrades. We also want 2 energy activators, and our video for the fastest way to get those is in the description and pinned comment. Around 10 crystallization catalysts, and again, video down below. We also want a solid mobbing / speedrunning build with Bunny, Lepic, Valby, etc. for the invasion dungeons. And finally, a decent bossing build for opening those amorphous materials in case of balance changes. So, with the checklist complete, I wanted to add some thoughts about the schedule changes and Season 1 as a whole. Generally, I'm okay with drip-fed content. As long as there's enough engaging stuff to do to tide everyone over, I'm relatively happy, right? I'm a Destiny and a Warframe and a Division and a Diablo player, so I'm used to it all by now. And while I may find those waiting periods annoying, I'm always content as long as there's stuff to do. I always want what's best for the community, and even now I think that I'm starting to be a Nexon fan. The support and fast communication and changes from this dev team has been insane. I have nothing but support for these guys and this game. It's been outstanding so far, and I have to give credit to both Nexon and the community as a whole. Anyway, the big debate that I've seen people talk about is Hailey's red mods. Now, the argument is that we'll eventually probably have to waste catalysts and XP to remod her when they come out, and the counterpoint that I see is that Warframe's augment mods, which are functionally the same thing as red mods, drop a few months after a new Warframe comes out, in order to give some variety and to allow balance changes to happen. Now, Warframe has systems in place that allow you to have multiple mod setups on characters and weapons with different polarities in each setup. So for example, If you used a crystallization catalyst to assign, say, a malachite slot, if you had the option to only apply that to 2 out of 3 mod setups for that Descendant, you could have entirely different builds in each setup slot. Now that's how Warframe does it, and it allows for more build diversity on the same piece of gear or Warframe. We don't currently have that luxury, so our catalyst choices are pretty much locked in unless you want to re-level the character and change the polarity of the slot again. Overall, it's a mixed bag. I'm just going to wait and see how it plays out before I pick a side, because at the end of the day, I play the game enough to not really care about having to put another catalyst in to change a slot polarity. But I can definitely understand how that would be annoying for people. Anyway, what's your opinion on the matter? Let us know in the comments down below. And as always, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.